Why you self-sabotage? The psychology of holding yourself back. There's a quiet war happening inside many of us. It's not loud. It's not violent. But it's devastating. You say you want to succeed. You make the plans. Set the goals. You even get excited about the future. And then, you procrastinate. You skip the meeting. You avoid the call. You blow the deadline. You ghost the opportunity. You do the exact opposite of what you said you wanted. And afterward, you're left with the same question over and over again. Why'd I keep sabotaging myself? To answer that, we have to go deeper. Not just into your behavior, but into your brain, your past, and your beliefs about what you truly deserve. What is self-sabotage, really? Self-sabotage isn't laziness. It isn't weakness. It's a defense mechanism, a psychological strategy to protect yourself from perceived threats. Not real ones. Perceived ones. Because the moment you start making progress, your subconscious starts ringing alarm bells. It whispers. What if you fail? What if they see you for who you really are? What if success changes everything? What if you're not actually good enough? So your brain, in a strange twist of logic, steps in to protect you. By making you late. By making you distracted. By making you stuck in endless loops of overthinking. And just like that, the goal dies. The most common forms of self-sabotage is rarely obvious. It hides in behaviors that look normal on the surface. Like procrastination, you tell yourself you'll start when you feel ready. But readiness never comes. Perfectionism, you won't launch until it's perfect. But nothing ever is. Overcommitting, you take on too much, then burn out. Now you have an excuse for why you couldn't do it. Negative self-talk, I always mess this up. I'm not cut out for this. That inner critic becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Toxic relationships, you stay around people who hold you back, unconsciously confirming the belief that you don't deserve better. Addictive habits, whether it's binge watching, doom scrolling, or stress eating, it's all a way to escape responsibility. But these behaviors are not the core problem. They're symptoms. The real issue is what's underneath. The root causes of self-sabotage is deeply psychological. It's not just poor habits, it's learned behavior, often from childhood. Let's break it down. 1. Low self-worth. At the root of many self-sabotaging behaviors is a belief. I am not worthy of good things. You might want love, money, success, or peace. But if deep down you don't believe you deserve them, you'll reject them, often without realizing it. This belief forms early. Maybe you were constantly criticized growing up. Maybe your achievements were never enough. Maybe love was conditional. So now, even as an adult, you feel uncomfortable with praise. You deflect compliments. You downplay wins. You feel guilty when things go well. Because somewhere inside, you believe that success is a threat, that if you allow yourself to feel proud, the fall will hurt more later. So instead, you quietly burn it all down, just to stay in the familiar. 2. Fear of failure, or fear of success. Some people fear failing. Others fear what will happen if they actually succeed. Why? Because success changes the narrative. It brings more visibility, more responsibility, more pressure. It threatens your identity. If you've always been the underdog, the struggler, or the one who just gets by, then success feels foreign, even unsafe. And what's unfamiliar feels dangerous to the subconscious mind. So instead of risking rejection, judgment, or having to maintain your wins, you sabotage. You play small. You stay safe. 3. Unhealed childhood trauma. Many patterns of self-sabotage are survival strategies from childhood. If you grew up in chaos, unpredictability becomes comforting. If you had to shrink yourself to stay safe, visibility now feels dangerous. If love came with strings, you might push away genuine care, because it feels unfamiliar. Your subconscious learned how to survive in dysfunction, and now it's trying to keep you there, even if it hurts. 4. Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome says, You're a fraud, and it's only a matter of time before everyone finds out. So when you start climbing, when you start winning, your brain panics. It tells you to stop before you get caught. Before the illusion shatters. Before they see you're not as smart, talented, or capable as they think. To avoid that imagined humiliation, you self-sabotage. Because if you crash on your own terms, at least it's under your control. 5. Emotional addiction to chaos or drama. Some people grow up in environments where peace was rare. They became addicted to adrenaline, crisis, and emotional volatility. So when things start to go well, it feels wrong. Your nervous system is so used to stress, it craves it. So you pick a fight. You overspend. You miss the deadline. Not because you're bad, but because peace feels boring. Unsafe. Foreign. And until you learn to regulate your nervous system, the chaos will feel like home. Self-sabotage and the subconscious mind. To truly understand self-sabotage, we need to understand one key truth. The subconscious mind runs the show. Your conscious mind might set goals, create vision boards, and dream big dreams. But your subconscious decides whether or not you follow through. And here's the kicker. The subconscious doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about safety. It cares about familiarity. It cares about keeping you in your comfort zone, even if that zone is deeply uncomfortable. This is why people can know exactly what they need to do, and still not do it. They're not lazy. They're not undisciplined. They're fighting against an internal system that's wired to resist change. Your brain is wired to protect you from a neurological standpoint. The human brain is built for survival, not fulfillment. It constantly scans for danger, and to the subconscious mind, change equals threat. New habits? Dangerous. More visibility? Risky. Big leaps? Too much. So the brain uses whatever tools it has to bring you back to the known, through distraction, anxiety, avoidance, and fear-based thinking. Your self-sabotage isn't random. It's your brain trying to protect the version of you it knows how to keep alive. Internal beliefs that fuel self-sabotage. Behind every self-sabotaging behavior is a belief. These beliefs act like scripts, quietly shaping your decisions, actions, and limits. Some of the most common include, if I succeed, people will leave me. If I shine too brightly, I'll be attacked. I'm not allowed to want more. I have to work myself to death to earn love. Good things never last. I always mess things up. These aren't conscious thoughts. They're stored deep in the subconscious, often absorbed during your most formative years. And until those scripts are rewritten, they will override even your most powerful goals. Why you keep repeating the same patterns? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why does this keep happening to me? Same toxic job. Same kind of partner. Same burnout cycle. Same crash after every breakthrough. This is not a coincidence. The brain is a pattern recognition machine. And it will keep recreating familiar dynamics, even painful ones, because the known feels safer than the unknown. In psychology, this is called repetition compulsion. A subconscious drive to recreate old wounds, hoping to resolve them this time around. So you end up chasing emotionally unavailable people, just like your parent was. Or sabotaging every financial win, just like your family did. Or picking bosses who remind you of that critical voice from childhood. It's not stupidity. It's psychology. And until you break the script, the story will keep playing on loop. The self-sabotage cycle. Step by step, let's break down how the cycle actually unfolds in real life. The desire you set a goal, something you really want. A healthier body. A better relationship. A new job. The plan, you get excited. Make a plan. Start taking small steps. The trigger, suddenly, anxiety creeps in. Doubt. Resistance. You feel exposed. Vulnerable. A subconscious alarm goes off. This is dangerous. Behavior you start avoiding. You procrastinate. You make impulsive choices. You sabotage progress, sometimes in small, barely noticeable ways. The collapse, eventually, things fall apart. The goal slips away. You're disappointed. Maybe ashamed. The reinforcement, you tell yourself, see? I knew I couldn't do it. And that thought strengthens the original belief that you're not capable, not worthy, not good enough. Then you start the cycle again, armed with even more self-doubt than before. Psychological walls. How we build emotional armor. Self-sabotage often stems from what psychologists call defense mechanisms. These are unconscious strategies used to protect ourselves from psychological pain. Here are a few common ones that feed self-sabotaging patterns. Displacement. You're angry at your boss, but you lash out at your partner. Projection. You feel unworthy, so you assume others are judging you. Denial. You pretend the problem doesn't exist, so you don't have to change. Rationalization. You create logical excuses for why you gave up, missed the deadline, or didn't try. Defense mechanisms aren't bad. They're survival tools. But if you never learn to upgrade them, they become your emotional prison. The inner critic and the self-saboteur. In many people, there's a loud inner voice, critical, shaming, relentless. It says things like, "You'll never get it right, why bother? You're just going to fail. Everyone else is better than you. If you mess this up, everyone will hate you." This voice isn't your enemy. It's your scared protector. Usually, this inner critic formed when you were young, often as a way to keep you in line, help you avoid danger, or fit into a dysfunctional environment. But now, it's outdated. And it's running the show. The inner critic often works hand in hand with the self-saboteur. Together, they form a cycle of fear, hesitation, avoidance, and regret. The goal isn't to kill these parts of yourself. It's to understand them. To reparent them. To teach them that you're no longer in danger. Emotional dysregulation and sabotage. Let's talk nervous systems. Many self-sabotaging behaviors are linked to poor emotional regulation. If you were never taught how to sit with discomfort, if you never learned to manage stress in healthy ways, if you were punished for expressing emotions, then you probably learned to numb, avoid, explode, or shut down. And when life gets intense, even in good ways, your nervous system freaks out. This is why some people sabotage after a promotion, or after falling in love, or after finally losing weight. It's not the situation that's the problem, it's the inability to emotionally regulate in new territory. Trauma and the fear of good things. One of the most overlooked roots of self-sabotage is unprocessed trauma, especially relational and developmental trauma. If you grew up in an environment where love was inconsistent, where you had to earn affection by overperforming, where safety wasn't guaranteed, where vulnerability was punished, then somewhere deep inside, you may have internalized this message. Good things don't last. Joy isn't safe. So when life starts going well, when love shows up, when success becomes possible, when peace starts to settle in, your nervous system doesn't celebrate. It panics. Because to a traumatized system, joy feels like a setup. A trap. A momentary calm before the storm. That's why people ghost partners they actually like. That's why artists burn out right before their big break. That's why clients stop showing up for therapy the moment things start improving. They're not weak. They're terrified. Sabotage becomes a form of self-protection. Attachment styles and self-sabotage. Your early relationships, especially with caregivers, shape the way you relate to others, to yourself, and to your goals. In psychology, this is called attachment theory. And the way you attach affects how you engage with success, intimacy, and risk. Avoidant attachment. You are taught not to rely on others. You pride yourself on independence. You fear vulnerability and reject emotional needs. So when success requires connection, or closeness becomes real, you pull away. Anxious attachment. You fear abandonment and crave approval. You overextend yourself to be liked. You self-sabotage by people-pleasing, burning out, or becoming overly dependent. You may unconsciously create chaos to test if others will stay. Disorganized attachment. You experienced both fear and love from the same source. You crave intimacy but don't trust it. You swing between chasing and pushing away, even with goals. These attachment patterns don't just shape relationships, they shape everything. And until they're healed, they create internal confusion that leads to self-sabotage. Upper limit problems. When growth feels unsafe, Gay Hendricks, author of The Big Leap, introduced a powerful concept called the upper limit problem. It refers to the internal ceiling we place on how much success, happiness, love, or peace we allow ourselves to feel. When we hit this upper limit, we unconsciously sabotage to bring ourselves back down to our baseline. Here's how it looks. You land your dream job, then get into a major argument with your partner. You finally feel good about your body, and suddenly binge for 3 days straight. You hit a financial milestone, and impulsively spend it on things you don't need. Why? Because you've exceeded your internal thermostat. And your subconscious is trying to cool things back down. The solution isn't to push harder. It's to expand your capacity to feel good. To tolerate joy. To normalize thriving. The self-image set point. Every person carries a self-image, a mental picture of who they are and what they deserve. This image forms early and solidifies through experience. If your internal image is, I'm always broke, I'm never the chosen one, I mess everything up, people always leave me, then any success that contradicts this image creates cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict between who you are and what you're experiencing. And the subconscious hates cognitive dissonance. So to resolve the tension, it pulls you back into alignment with your core identity, even if that identity is painful. That's why transformation must include identity work. Because if you don't believe you're the kind of person who wins, loves deeply, or thrives, you'll find a way to lose, push love away, or shrink, even without realizing it. Perfectionism. The mask that hides fear. Perfectionism is one of the most insidious forms of self-sabotage, because it wears the mask of excellence. But at its core, perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of shame. So instead of taking action, you overplan. You delay. You tweak endlessly. You wait for the perfect time. Perfectionism is procrastination dressed up in a designer coat. And the more you feed it, the more you delay your life. Real progress requires messy action. Growth requires imperfection. And the people who succeed aren't the most polished, they're the most resilient. Self-fulfilling prophecies. When you prove yourself right, the subconscious mind loves being right. So if you believe you're destined to fail, if you think you're unlovable, incapable, unworthy, then you will subconsciously act in ways that confirm those beliefs. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't study because you believe you'll fail, and then fail, confirming the belief. Push people away because you expect rejection, and then feel abandoned. Undercharge because you think you're not good enough, and then resent being undervalued. It's not that life is proving you right. You're shaping your reality through your beliefs. And the only way to break the pattern is to question the belief, not the outcome. Fear of responsibility and power. Many people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of what success will demand. Because with success comes visibility, responsibility, expectations, pressure, leadership, and if your core belief is, I can't handle it, then self-sabotage becomes a way to stay small enough to feel safe. Some fear success because they fear losing themselves. Others fear hurting people with their ambition. Others associate power with corruption, loneliness, or punishment. If you don't examine your beliefs about power, leadership, and visibility, you'll subconsciously avoid the very outcomes you claim to desire.